You want to go where everybody knows your name. We're talking Cheers. Hit it. It was 1982. Doctors performed the first implant of a permanent artificial heart. Italy won the World Cup. The first CD player was sold in Japan, and the Cheers staff and regulars tried to have a wonderful Christmas. I'm your host, Jerry D, with another episode of Totally Rad Christmas, the podcast that talks all things Christmas in the 80s. Toys, movies, specials, music, and fads. If it was gnarly during Christmas in the 80s, we got it covered. Now, joining me is a very special guest. It's Lisa from Sass N Sips podcast. Lisa, how's it going?
Hi, Jerry. I am doing well. Thank you. How are you?
You know, I'm all right. Much better than last week.
Good to hear. Always good to hear.
So, I mean, it's been a crazy time here, but with all the shutdowns and growing numbers, but, I still manage to kind of get out there a little bit when I can and do what I need to do. But I can't say that I've been to too many bars lately. What about you?
No. In the last year and a half or so, a couple of times, but sparingly. And some of it was outdoors. So,
which is nicer. Yes, We'll take it anytime. But we're here today to talk Cheers. What's your general, history, or what's your experience with Cheers?
It just reminds me of being a kid. It's one of those shows where, for me anyway, like once you hear the theme song, it just brings you right back. And it's just, it gives you that good feeling right about here in your chest,
Yeah, for sure. I remember when it was ending, I think I was like in junior high, about to go to high school, or maybe I was a freshman about to be a sophomore. I don't remember, but for band that year at our final concert, they're like, hey, we're going to play the Cheers theme song. It's the last episode. The series is ending. So, and I remember being on stage and playing it, and the crowd was like just mesmerized, because it was like a big thing. Cheers was like such a part of our lives for like so long.
Yeah. I don't mean to cut you off. I'm just
no, go ahead.
I'm right there again. It's just, I was born in 79. So the first few seasons or so, obviously I don't really remember them except as watching them when I was older, but it was just something that was on, back then TV, you had to be there to watch it. So it was just one of those shows that was always on when it was on. And it was the kind of show that you wanted to sit and watch with your parents and not find something else to do.
Yeah, exactly. Even if we didn't really know everything that was going on, if we didn't quite understand all the details about it, we just knew it was funny, because there's still a few slapstick bits here and there, some humor. It was great. And I'm the same way. I'm right behind you. I was born in 1980. And so it was like one of those things. I just remember it always being on, and it ran from 82 to 93, which, is quite a long time for a sitcom. A lot of sitcoms nowadays don't even get, 5 seasons, let alone that many. So, it's just, I remember it always being there. And so when it ended, it was a big deal.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And then, of course, Sam and Diane. Everybody remembers Sam and Diane.
Oh, yeah. They were like the Luke and Laura after Luke and Laura.
That's right. Yeah. And the Jim and Pam, but before Jim and Pam.
But yeah. So we definitely just aged ourselves. But yes.
That's right. It's an 80s podcast, so I think they understand that, But there's a few things, this episode I didn't remember at all, which is surprising, because I usually remember at least bits and pieces of some of the stuff that we cover in this podcast, but I didn't remember this one like at all.
Neither did I.
Yeah. And which is, I guess, it actually was really good. I really enjoyed the episode. And it makes me want to go back and like binge Cheers again, because it's been like probably a decade since I've seen it. But at the same time, I mean, there was a few little things here and there that was like, oh, okay, I get it. I know why. I know why I haven't seen it in a while.
And it's so funny because I feel that I am more familiar with the earlier episodes, like the Diane episodes, than the Rebecca episodes, which is so weird because by the time the Rebecca episodes aired, I would have been much, older in the sense that like I could remember what I was watching.
Yeah, same here.
I mean, I was 10, 11, 12, those ages as they were airing. So you would think, how come you don't remember this? But no.
Yeah, I understand completely. And I just remember the will they, won't they of Sam and Diane was just like such a huge thing. It was like back and forth. They were on again, they were off again. And then with Rebecca, the only thing I really remember is that he was really trying to chase her for a while and nothing ever really happened.
And she was always into, she was always into the guy. And they mentioned his name in the episode. And for the life of me now, I can't, was it Drake?
Maybe, or Drake or Robin. I think there was a Robin in there too.
Oh, maybe him. Yeah, it was the guy who was like the head of the company. And she was just so head over heels for him. But he never really gave her the time of day.
No.
Yeah.
I just remember having a crush on Shelley Long. And then afterwards, because I was into Star Trek when I was little. So when Rebecca came on and it was Kirstie Alley, I remembered her from Star Trek 3. And I was like, oh, yeah. No, this is the one. I like this one. But for Sam, Sam always felt more like he belonged with Diane than he did with Rebecca.
They did complement each other well.
They did. Yes, very much. Because he was like that everyman kind of, he was an ex-baseball player. And she was very much that, I don't want to say uppity, but, just very learned, I suppose.
Yeah.
Well, maybe a little uppity, but.
Right. Like that was her full-time profession, was like being a part-time student.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. Which, I mean, it's not too bad of a gig, I guess. If you can afford it, might as well. Yeah.
Right.
Now, this particular episode is called Christmas Cheers. Now, in this one, I mean, there's kind of a few subplots going on. Of course, Frasier is there with Lilith. And I remember when Lilith was introduced, not liking her at all as well.
Oh, I love Lilith. I mean, it's
nice.
It's one of the things that I like is how almost unlikable she is. Yeah. And that's what makes her great, is like, she was the first one to just, I don't care. I don't give,
Yeah.
I don't know if I can curse, but just and I'm me. This is who I am, and
deal with it.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, I get you. And I actually did like her with Frasier. So when they split up, I remember even as a kid being like, why are they getting? What's going on? I don't get it. I was just surprised by it. It was something that is just I didn't understand, because I thought they complemented each other really well as well.
Right.
Just like I didn't like Diane with Frasier, even though they were both intellectuals, but he seemed too stiff for her. She needed more of that. I don't know. Just I don't want to say a man's man, but because that's terrible. But you know what I mean. She just needed someone a little more. Masculine than Frasier, I suppose. Like she felt a little more down to earth, even though she was an intellectual.
Right.
Frasier always just felt kind of stiff and and at that level. But Lilith, I thought actually was a good match for him. So when they broke up, I didn't get it as a kid. But relationships, man.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we've all been there.
Yes. So particularly in this episode, we have a few subplots. So we have Frasier, who's doesn't quite get Christmas. He's just very cynical. He's beat down. We have Sam trying to get into Rebecca's pants again, and actually being a little surprised that everybody got her gifts, which I thought was kind of funny.
Mm-hmm.
Why wouldn't you get people you work with a gift if it's that close? Yeah, I mean, like I get it if you're in a big company. You can't afford gifts for everybody, but, especially like your team, usually you get something for. So we have that one. We have Norm as a Santa and that little subplot as well, which I really enjoyed. And then finally we have Cliff and his subplot of it's kind of like a feed the needy, Toys for Tots kind of thing, except with canned goods. And so if you fill it up, then he'd get a vacation. And
right.
So all these little subplots that I think they actually quite weaved pretty well. They intertwined them, I thought, very, very successfully.
I think that was one of the beautiful things about this show, is that you did have the cast who was at the heart, basically the staff of Cheers, but you had all the secondary characters who were basically main characters, even though they weren't.
Yeah.
I mean, you had Norm and Cliff and Frasier and there was always still, like you said, like the little stories that they had, and everything was just so well put together that you didn't, after hearing what you've just said, it really gives it a new perspective, because you just don't even realize how many stories are going on at the same time until somebody says it, like, then there's this story and this story, and you're like, oh damn, there was. And
that's right. Yeah.
And you just don't even realize it.
Well, and that's life. Everybody's got their own story because they're living their own lives. So I think a good show, like you said, can make it happen and make you unaware that it's actually happening. So like you can always tell a bad movie because they're like, okay, well, there's this going on, and then there's this going on, and it's so it just doesn't mesh well, I think. And in this case, I think they really did. They kind of just flow one another, because they're just like popping in and out, just like people do in everyday lives. And so I really appreciated the writing in this episode. I do like the one, like, I don't know if I'd say plot point. It's more just like a gag or gimmick, but I did like how everybody kind of, It's a Wonderful Life came on. They kind of bookended it. So it opens up with like them, complaining that It's a Wonderful Life is on again. And they're like, how many times are going to show this stupid thing? And it turns out that they were going to show it for like 6 straight days in a row or something.
Right. Like every day until New Year's.
And they're just making fun of it and saying how terrible it is. And then everybody just starts kind of crying and wiping their tears at the end.
They got something in their eyes.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man. So I enjoy, and let me ask you real quick, because there's some people that say It's a Wonderful Life is not a Christmas movie. Where do you fall on it?
So I fall in the category of, I have never actually seen the movie.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So if you know me, you know that that's not a shock, but for most people that's a shock.
Yes.
Because I know it's just such a classic movie, and it does come on around the holidays, but my family was more of a Christmas Carol.
Okay.
Family. So that's like my uncle, if we would go spend the holidays in his house, that's what would play.
Oh,
and
okay.
He always watched it on Christmas Eve.
Nice. But, the 1951, I think it is.
It was in black and white.
Yeah.
So probably.
Yeah, I gotcha. Yeah, and I remember watching Miracle on 34th Street more often than I did It's a Wonderful Life. But even then, now it's like my mom and my brother's favorite Christmas movie. So they're like all about It's a Wonderful Life.
I've never seen it.
You've never seen Miracle on 34th Street?
No, yeah.
Okay.
And I was an adult before I even saw A Christmas Story.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And so I never understood the references growing up. And then finally one day somebody was like, that's from this movie. And I was like, oh. And I was like, oh, now it all makes sense.
Yeah, I gotcha. Well, no worries. I was just curious because we kind of have a debate, myself and a few of the other Christmas podcast hosts, about whether It's a Wonderful Life is a Christmas movie or not. Because really only the very end, like it's bookended with Christmas, and everything is like all about his life in between. And so there's a few that are like, no, it's not a Christmas movie, but a lot of people.
It's like the Die Hard.
Exactly. Yeah. It's kind of like, the Die Hard of the 40s, I suppose.
Right.
Well, speaking of, where do you fall on the Die Hard argument?
The movie I have not seen all the way through.
Okay.
I know it's, you know what it is? It's not available for rent anywhere, like for watching on any streaming apps.
Yeah. Which is
and
odd.
I have never found it. So it's just one of those things where you catch it, but I kind of think it's a Christmas movie. I mean, why set it at Christmas if it's not supposed to be a Christmas movie?
Yeah, I hear you. The book that it's based on is a Christmas novel, essentially. You know, same thing.
Okay.
It's set at Christmas, and I know there's a lot of Christmas in it, so it makes sense. And so for me, I personally think it's just an action movie set at Christmas. But as far as my show goes, it's considered a Christmas movie, so
Mm-hmm.
I give a lot of
And why
leeway.
can't it be both?
There you go. Exactly. I like that. See, that's the kind of thinking. That's why I asked you on
Thank
this
you.
episode here. But yeah, so it starts off with that. They're watching It's a Wonderful Life, and that's like the gag, and that'll come back later on. But really, at the heart of it is Sam, and Sam's always been kind of the main character, but you know, he's on this quest essentially to do as little as possible, and but at the same time try to just hook up with Rebecca. So when he finds out that everybody's like giving her gifts and he doesn't have one, he runs out to like go find a gift at like 10 p.m. on Christmas Eve or something, which, you know, maybe nowadays isn't such a big deal, but in the 80s, like, I mean, most things were
No.
closed by like 5 or 6,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
at least here in Texas. I don't know about up there in New York.
Yeah. I mean, yes and no. A
Gotcha.
lot of shops do still close early, but maybe not the big chains. So,
Oh, I
maybe
see.
Macy's might be open.
Gotcha.
If you had a big, I don't know, well, there was no Targets, but like A&S or Macy's or
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, some big chains department store type thing might be open. And even then, I don't even know if it would have been till 10 o'clock. And New York is the kind of place where you can get anything at any time.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't even know if you could shop on Christmas Eve in the 80s, but
Yeah,
at 10 o'clock at night.
exactly. Yeah.
But in Boston, I mean, not that Boston is like some, what is it, like a four pony town is, I don't know how the expression goes, forget it.
I know what you're talking
But
about. Yeah.
I mean, it's a city, but it's like you're out of luck, buddy.
Yeah.
You just no.
Yes, exactly. And so, I mean, it's like a whole thing where he's trying his best. He's like going place to place. They're like closing, and then he happens to run into a stewardess or flight attendant, I suppose they're called. Who
I think they were still called stewardesses.
I think they were still called stewardesses. Yeah, yeah. I think it wasn't. I'm still trying to pick up on all the new lingo. I'm still stuck in the 80s, so I'll say things like rad. But and so he happens upon a flight attendant who is doing some shopping, and he thinks she's like angelic because she's a lifesaver. Literally, she's like, yeah, I have some presents. I'm not going to be able to get a flight wherever. I'm just going to go visit my mom and family. So I have a couple of presents you probably could have. And so he brings her back. But at the same time, he's also kind of lonely, and he's kind of a Lothario kind of guy. So, womanizer. So he's like, all right, well, maybe we'll have a nice evening together. So, he's also, I guess, doing a little Christmas shopping for himself. Like,
you could say that.
Yeah. So they go back to Cheers, and there's that we're dealing with. At the same time, while all this is going on, Frasier is just so cynical about Christmas, and the whole time, he and Lilith, he's kind of biting her head off, basically, just snapping at her about Christmas, and he sees something, he's like, oh yeah, that's what happens at Christmas time, or nothing says Christmas in America in the 80s like a bunch of Santas, trying to get a cab from a bar, something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, everything about him is just so like Debbie Downer.
Like he's like that by tomorrow morning, everybody will be knee deep in wrapping paper saying, is this really what I got?
Yeah, that's right. Which, I was always very grateful for my presents, but there was always like that one box of like shirts or socks or something. You're just like,
yeah.
Why?
Right. Yeah. Now as an adult, it's like, ooh, socks.
I know.
But when you're 10, it's like, really? I want a Nintendo.
The Nintendo, yes. Oh man, that was a great year that year. Yeah. And so, I mean, it's like that. Now, Woody also, he's got his own thing going on, because while Frasier's kind of feeling really cynical, Woody, who's like the the second bartender, or assistant, I don't know what they're called, but he actually is going to be starring in like a little local production. And so he's, it's like a little Christmas play. And so he's not going to be home for like the first time in like ever for Christmas. And so I like his thing where he like gets a phone call from his mom, and he's, talking to her on the phone, and he's like, I'm a man now, Mom. I don't need to go home. And then he just kind of breaks down weeping. I thought that was pretty good bit there.
Yeah, they start talking about the nativity scene, and Balthazar is his favorite, and
yeah,
and he's just like, oh,
yeah. I I thought that was funny, and they talk about the stuffing, that she makes, and it's like dry, like
so
super
dry you can gag on it.
bone dry. Which I like stuffing. I like it a lot, or
Yeah, me
dressing, whatever you
too.
want to call it. But I'm not sure I like it bone dry. That just seems
I
ridiculous.
like it with a lot of gravy, so that
Yes.
it's just nice and mushy.
Exactly. It needs something, some sort of moisture in there. So every time you mentioned bone dry and gagging and all that stuff, I was like, no, why, Woody, why? I did like that there was that fun little turn of events where Sam accidentally gives Rebecca some diamond earrings from that lady's, she's like, here, give her this. And it's like some $500 diamond earrings. And it was supposed to be earmuffs or something like that. Right. And
but how do you not check?
I don't know.
How do you just pick something and say, oh, I have these great earmuffs here, especially knowing that you have a box with diamond earrings, and it's exactly the same size. And he goes, just give me a second. Let me just make sure these are the $5 earmuffs and not the $500
right,
diamond
exactly. Yes, exactly. That makes no sense. But and then the other thing that I always thought was odd was so when he gives her the present, it actually has a tag on it that says like, to Rebecca from Sam. But if there was a mistake, if that was like a switch up, how did that tag get on that box? I don't know.
Yeah, if I had to guess, they stuck the tag on the wrong box and then grabbed the box.
Yeah. But you're right. I mean, why check? And
what? Right.
And how are like an earmuffs box and like a diamond earrings box the same size? That I don't get.
That's an excellent point. But now, if they had the time to write a tag, didn't you have the time to just open and peek?
Yeah, exactly. Just check a little bit. I mean, so anyway, Sam's kind of like up a creek because he, it was a mistake, and you could see on the flight attendant's face, she's like, like, oops, you grabbed the wrong one, but he can't take it back now.
And she's a lot calmer than I would have been.
Oh, I would have been furious.
Excuse me, just that was the wrong box. I'm going to need those back right now. Thanks.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and it was a present for her mom, wasn't it?
Right. And then $500. I mean, even today, to spend $500 on a single gift for me, it's a lot. I mean,
for me too. Yeah. I never spend that.
And
that's
this
like
was
total for everybody I know,
Yeah. I mean, and this is 20 years ago. So I wonder what the translation would be in value. But that's a lot of money. Mm-hmm. And he's just like, I'll write you a check. I mean, I'm not taking a check for $500 from some stranger I just met off the street.
That's right. It's like, no, cash. Mm-hmm. Give me the cash.
Yes, and a copy of your driver's license, please.
She also, for Sam, to be fair to Sam, she didn't seem like she was 100% with it either. She was a little slow on the uptake, just kind of like Woody is, a little naive. They're not, they're much more trusting than anybody. And
for sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
I did like how after he writes her the check, and because he gives Rebecca those earrings, she like invites him to like a nice, little, well, or what in his mind is like an intimate dinner. I think she even says something like a nice little intimate get together or something. And so he's like, oh, all right. He's thinking he's finally gonna get with her. And it turns out she like invited half the bar and all the workers and everything in it.
Yeah, because when he gives her the earrings and realizes the mistake, he's ready to take them back and explain that it was a mistake. And then after she invites him, you can see he like the wheels in his head are like, oh, this is totally worth it. Okay, I'm gonna and it's worth $500. So boom, my foot is in the door. And then, once he realizes, like you said, that it's not just him, it's he's ready to kick himself again.
Mm-hmm. Well, I like that, when he goes to apologize and to go pay for it with the stewardess to go write her the check or whatever. And, she's like, oh, so I guess that means there's no lingerie parade or something like that.
Yeah, what should you call it? A lingerie fashion show?
Fashion show. That's what it was. Yeah. Lingerie fashion show.
Yeah, and he's like, "Oh, we could do it another time." And she's like, "But it just seemed like such a Christmas thing to do."
Thing.
So not only did he get stuck buying those earrings for Rebecca, he lost his chance with the flight attendant.
Yep.
And still had no chance with Rebecca.
Still had no chance. Yep.
It's just perfect.
Poor guy. Yeah. But Woody ends up bonding with the flight attendant as well.
Yes.
They're talking about, and they bond over like their favorite, or the nativity. He likes Balthazar. She likes, I think, Melchior or something like that.
Yeah.
And so, and then they talk about, their moms making stuffing like super dry and which, come on, guys, come on. It still bugs me. I know we just talked about it, but it still bugs me.
It's funny though, because no matter what Woody says, and even though it's like, that's gross.
Yeah.
Woody is such a lovable character.
He is, though. He's got a good heart.
You almost want to say, yeah, if you love it so much, I'll have some with you. I mean,
yeah,
it's just something so pure in his naivete that you just can't help but just like the character.
Yeah.
Like I don't know how anybody could not like him, but I mean, I love him. I love Woody.
I do too. He was always one of my favorites, mostly because of his lines like that. Even as when I was younger, I just thought, this guy gets it.
Right.
Like it's all about the heart, and he has a lot of heart.
And I guess that in one sense, he had to step in and take over the coach character.
Right.
And so like it has to have that like dopey face value type character.
Mm-hmm.
But the way Woody does it is so much more streamlined and easier than when Coach did it.
Mm-hmm.
And I like Coach.
I do too. Yeah.
But Woody just fits in so much better.
Yeah. I think. I agree. Woody came in season 3. Coach was there the first 2, and he made like a brief appearance in season 3, a little bit here and there. But the actor, I guess, had some serious issues health-wise that he kind of kept secret from a lot of the crew. And so when he passed away, they didn't want to recast him, which I mean, that's awesome. I like when they do that, honor the character and the actor as well. And so that's when they brought in Woody. And you're right, Woody had more of a rapport, and I don't know if it's just because of the age. Like he was more around Sam and everybody else's kind of age than Coach was, Coach being an older character. But he just seemed like he blended a little bit better, and he played off the other guys better.
And I think another thing in that realm is that when we first start Cheers, Coach is already there. So Coach, Carla, and Sam already have this pre-existing relationship.
Right.
That we have jumped into.
Yes.
But then when Woody comes along, he jumps into our relationship. And so we get to know him at the same time as them.
Yeah.
And so you don't feel like you had this sense of being left out of something, or like there's an inside joke that you're not a part of, because now you're a part of it and you're welcoming him.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point. Wow, I never thought about that. But you're right. You're absolutely right. I mean, we're growing along with them and their rapport. So as their bonds and everything grow, we're ours. That's cool. I never thought about it like that. I always just thought he was funny. Of course, I was like 6 or 7, but yeah, I like how when Sam gives Woody and Carla their presents, Carla gets that soap, and she's like so upset that it's just soap. That always that got to me. I thought that was funny because I mean, I hate to be that guy, but sometimes I'm that guy, especially when I was younger. I remember, it's like, hey, well, how come he got
right,
that and I only got this, when I was a kid. I mean, things.
Oh yeah, because they were totally just kind of like, oh, it's cool, whatever. Yeah,
Yeah.
you know, like as if we'll just like anything that you get us. And then
Yeah.
when they see him give the earrings to Rebecca, it was like, oh, well, let's see what he got us. I mean, he doesn't even like her,
Yeah.
And it's like, it's soap. She got diamond earrings and we got soap.
And we got soap. Yeah. Which is, if you think about it, he didn't actually even get her a gift to begin with. So, soap, I think, to me, outranks no gift. But
right.
Yeah,
right.
As soon as the diamond earrings come into play, it's like, sorry, Sam.
Yeah.
But when she tells him, when Carla tells him that Rebecca invited like everybody to her little party.
Oh, she bursts his bubble so
like,
bad.
I like what he says. He's like, be honest with me here, because I'm very fragile right now. And like you could just see, as like the awareness is dawning upon him, and how everybody, just he's getting so crestfallen. She's just like, oh, this is even better than the soap. This is like making it worth it.
I love that she takes such glee in everyone's misery.
Yeah,
she's great.
I loved Carla. She was so fun. Her and Woody, I think, were my two favorites growing up.
I think I agree with that.
And I like Norm. Norm is fun, but it was always Carla and Woody. I think they were just
and they have a dynamic. The way they play off of each other is really well done.
Mm-hmm.
And Norm is a great character, and so is Cliff. But I think that both Norm and Cliff even get better when they're paired with each other.
Yeah,
like when Cliff is giving you one of his Cliff facts, and him and Norm are sitting together, and they're like, oh yeah, did you know? I didn't know it. And you're just like, what is this nonsense? But it's hilarious.
It's always nonsense.
Yeah.
One thing that I did learn while reading about the show is that apparently John Ratzenberger auditioned to play Norm, and they liked him so much, although they didn't think he was right for Norm, that they actually created the Cliff character. And he was the one that pitched, hey, there's always that bar know-it-all. Did you write one of those for the show? And they're like, yeah, you. And so they kind of just came up with Cliff like that. And he is that guy. There is always that one guy that just kind of thinks he knows everything, and he gets really annoying. But at the same time, Cliff, he's also kind of, even though he is a know-it-all, he also is a little bit naive in some of his interactions, especially with Norm. And so you're right. When they're paired together, I think they're stronger as characters than when they're apart. Like Bert and Ernie, kind of a vibe, or Statler and Waldorf. You got to have them together,
Definitely.
Meanwhile, Norm is a mall Santa because he's trying to earn a little extra cash. It's Christmas time, stuff like that. So I like how he tries to play it off. Like no, there's no one. I don't know who this is. When the guy comes to bring him his Santa costume, he's like, "You're late again." And I mean, I think not for me, because I'd be like, "Yeah, that's my costume." But I think some people, I could see how they'd definitely be embarrassed by being, a Santa like that.
Yeah, I don't think that it's, at least on television and the movies, it's not always portrayed as being a glamorous job.
Right.
So it's like when you see somebody has to play Santa, you already know that they're not going to be happy about it for the most part. Yeah.
Well, Homer Simpson, same thing. When he played Santa in the Simpsons debut episode, he was like, all right, I guess I'll do it. But I mean, I like it. I think it's amazing. I mean, you watch like some of those Hallmark movies, and the guy playing Santa always seems so happy and fulfilling. So it's, I mean, I guess know your audience, right?
Yeah. I mean, we used to have like a Santa costume that my mom bought when my kids were little. And the idea was to get my uncle to dress up like Santa on Christmas morning and, bring in some extra presents for the kids or whatever.
Yeah.
And it was just for the house. And I remember like he hated doing it. And then as the kids got a little older, and then, my mom would be like, okay, he doesn't want to do it anymore now. Like, who wants to do it now? And nobody would ever volunteer. Everybody was just like, I don't want to do it. Not me. You better sell that suit. Nobody ever wants to be Santa.
Oh, what a bummer. I'd love to be Santa, but I don't quite fit in the costume, and the pillows just look weird on me. So maybe one of these days, maybe when I'm older. But meanwhile, I love this other bit where they're, it's Christmas Eve, so they're trying to get home. They and I work retail, so I understand. Trying to get everybody out. It's like, come on, the store closes at 6. Let's get everybody out.
Right.
So they're trying to get their, those last customers out, and then Norm brings like all his Santa class in, and there's that other patron who's like, oh, I'm waiting for some people, and they're like about to kick him out, and then they all come in. You could just see like the devastation on their face. Oh, we gotta stay here.
It seems like that where Carla is like, come on, get out. You've been sitting here. And he's like, no, I'm waiting for my friends. She's like, no, you're not, get out. And then you think, you're like, what would you do in real life if somebody treated you that way while you were sitting, at a bar or at an establishment? You're like, how does this place stay in business? But
exactly. Yeah.
We all keep coming back.
Like, I'm not paying my tab, lady, or something,
Right?
Let me speak to a manager. You'd say something right? Like that.
She insults, between her and Diane can't get an order right. Carla insults everybody. And if you don't leave her a good tip, she calls you out on it. So it's like, it's a miracle that Sam still had that bar for as long as he did.
Well, you're right about that. I know he ended up selling it to that company that Rebecca owned.
Right.
And I think at this point, because this is season 6, I think, at this point, that company still owned it. Later on, a few seasons later, he's able to actually buy it back.
Right.
Which is really cool. I like it when he owned it a little bit more, I think.
Yeah, the Rebecca character was a little, I guess, they like the same way they didn't want to just replace like a simile of Coach. Yeah. So they don't want to do a simile of Diane. They don't want just a cardboard cutout
right
in a new person. So you have to come up with a different situation. Right. And I see how they got there, but it always felt a little forced.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And again, it makes sense. You work with people, new people come into your life. They're not exactly like, the person that was there before. And so in a way, at least with me, whenever we hire new guys, because there's like a few of us that are always there. And then because we're a Christmas store, we're seasonal, we have a lot of workers. And we need them, especially, in like November or October, November. And so it's like, okay, well, last year this guy did this and he was pretty cool. Are you going to be like that? And usually they're their own person. So, it makes sense. But at the same time, it's like you kind of long for that, that one-on-one swap out, where it's like, no, you're just exactly like this other guy. I know how to treat you. I know how to deal with you already. And so, and you're right. I like that they didn't do that, just that straight facsimile of it. But at the same time, it did feel a little bit like, well, they could have just brought in a new waitress who was different. They didn't need to write in this whole subplot about Sam selling and this parent company and everything. Although I guess it did provide for some good drama with Rebecca later on. But
yeah, and I do like that the power shift changed. Because before it was Diane was working underneath him. He was the boss. But now Rebecca is his boss. But then at the end of the day, even though she was the boss, he still more or less treated her like he was her boss, except he just did what she said.
Right.
And so I guess maybe that's one of the things that never felt, I don't know what the word is, like cohesive. Because I know Sam, was always chasing the ladies. He was a ladies' man. That's right. His character, But this is your boss. I feel like at some point that would have made for a better story, which is, he wanted her, but he had to keep it to himself. He couldn't pursue it because this is your boss.
Yeah.
And it was like, it's just so unrealistic.
Yeah. Yeah. I know what you mean. I know exactly what you mean. And of course, nowadays, I don't know if that would fly at all in a sitcom even. So it's just, yeah, exactly. Exactly. So it's just one of those where, okay, the 80s, different time, I get it. And so you just kind of have to go with the flow with that. But I do like how we start to see some sort of resolution when when his group is getting ready to leave, his group of Santas. And all of a sudden there's, one guy that's like, all right, well, I have a lot of work to do tonight. It's very busy. I got to get going. And they have this whole bit where they kind of pause and like, did you hear that? It sounded like sleigh bells. I don't remember that guy from Class. And Frasier, who's like listening and watching, and he's like, wait a minute, is that sleigh bell? He like actually can kind of hear it. He's like convinced
he has that moment.
Like maybe this guy is the real deal Santa. Which, all right, I wouldn't doubt it. There's a lot of movies like that where Santa has been there the whole time. But just as Frasier's like really starting to believe, and he thinks he hears the sleigh bells, and the guy comes in, he's like, oh man, I left my car lights on, my battery's dead. Can someone help me out? Which is it's very much Cheers. Like just when you think, something, like when the intensity, the emotional intensity is getting too high, then they kind of break it, with like a joke. And they do that again later on as well, when It's a Wonderful Life comes back on. But I like how Frasier is he's like so excited. He's like, hey, Lilith, a miracle happened. I almost felt like the magic of Christmas, like for the first time ever, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And, she's just excited that, he's not going to be snapping at her anymore, which I get. I mean, we all get grumpy. Right. So, yeah. But yeah, so that's like his big denouement or whatever. And I think I used that correctly. It's been a long time since I used that word. Anyway, that's like his big moment. And as all that's going on, he's like, all right, let's sing some Christmas carols. So then he like runs to the piano and like starts singing, which I thought was kind of cool as well. I got all the Christmas feels from that.
And his heart grew 3 sizes.
That's it. That's right. And then they discover It's a Wonderful Life is back on, and like, it's the best part. And it's, of course, at the end when they're all singing, and they've saved George, and, no man is a failure that has friends, that whole big deal. And as like, again, as the emotional intensity is really ramping up, all of a sudden it's like cuts to like a special news interruption where apparently some crazy mailman is like chasing a plane, throwing cans of Chinese food on it. Because Cliff, his whole journey is that he's trying to win a trip to Disneyland, right? Or Disney World, I guess, in Orlando. Mm-hmm. If he got enough canned goods. He was like 1 can short, but apparently someone, Woody, had brought 2 cans in to donate, but didn't place them in the box, but was still early enough that it could have counted for Cliff's actual collection numbers. And so he like runs to try to get it done, but by this time it's too late, of course. And
he was like chasing the plane down the runway.
Just throwing the cans at it. And that's when we get Norm just like, oh, Cliffy. And so that's kind of how it ends. And I mean, there was a lot in this episode that I really enjoyed. It was a very good Cheers episode. I thought it was written very well. As we mentioned, everything just kind of flows seamlessly together. Nothing really sticks out plot wise, like a sore thumb. So I thought it was great.
Yeah, it was definitely a good episode. And it has, the laughs, the feel good moments, and like you said, just when you think they're wrapping it all up at the end, having the sappy scene on the TV, and then here goes the news report with, crazy man shut down the airport. It surprises you,
It does. Yes, that's exactly right. Of course, Cheers went on to create a spin-off, Frasier, and
still
several
one of my
Cheers
favorites.
Frasier's good. I really like Frasier. And some of the old cast actually cameoed on it, which I thought was cool.
I think all of them except Rebecca or Percy Alley.
Right.
I think she was the only one who didn't.
Well, she, I think at this point was having issues with maintaining her own shows. Like she was on and off various sitcoms that she was trying to launch that just were never really quite successful. It seems like if she had made a cameo, perhaps she could have gotten more play for her own sitcoms, but
yeah, you would think that a little exposure on Frasier, which was a very popular show. I mean, it also ran for, I believe, 11 seasons. Mm-hmm. Would have helped.
And Seinfeld, which is like my favorite, it was winning all sorts of awards, but towards the end there, Frasier was actually winning even more.
Oh, wow.
A lot of times when it was like up against each other, Frasier would take it. So, I mean, Like if it's that popular, like get on it, promote your show, something.
Right. Especially when you have such an organic reason to be there.
Yes.
And it's not forced. I mean, I'm sure they could have found a reason for her. Or actually, the easiest thing when they went back for Cliff's, they went to Boston for Cliff's like retirement party or something.
Oh yeah.
And they all and Frasier and his whole family went back. It would have been so easy to have Rebecca there.
Yeah.
They would have even had to find a reason for her to be in Seattle. It just would have been, her just right there where we left her, so to speak.
Yeah. Well, I do like how they kind of, because of that show, they were able to provide like some closure for some of the characters, like what happened down the line with them. So Sam was like engaged. He ended up calling off the wedding because I guess she was a little promiscuous because they were both at like sex addicts.
Right.
And then Shelley Long as well. Her Diane comes back. She's like a failed writer now and is asking Frasier for help. But then in the end, she kind of gets that bug again and goes back to try again. I mean, all sorts of things like that. And I really liked that. I thought that was pretty cool. And it would have been nice to have like a big Cheers reunion. But and you never know, they're doing all sorts of reunions nowadays. Fresh Prince had theirs and Friends had theirs, so maybe we'll get a Cheers reunion.
That'd be pretty cool to see.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind that. But it does make me wonder. So what would you say would be your happiest memory or moment of the special, or the Cheers in general?
So I don't know if this is gonna sound corny, but it was when the theme song started playing.
No, it doesn't sound corny at all.
It was like I didn't even want to skip it. I sang along.
Nice.
It was just that, yeah. It just had that feeling of nostalgia and being a kid when you knew that, as a kid, you didn't have responsibilities. You knew that somebody was taking care of you. Just things were good, overall. Things were easy. And it just made you feel like a happier time. Not that things are unhappy, but just a
less
good
stressful.
Place. Yeah.
You didn't have to pay bills.
No.
Like if I could go back and just not pay bills, that would be awesome. So
right.
And I could do that now, but that would probably be pretty bad. So
like your worst problem back then was like finishing your homework in time to, watch TV or something.
Exactly.
Yeah. Or begging to stay up late, whatever, just nothing, just no real problems, at least as that kind of kid that I was, just, yeah.
Yeah, no, same. I completely understand. I think for me, of the series as a whole, it would definitely be playing that last theme song on stage at that concert. That was cool. And it just reminded me of everything. But I do remember actually like sitting down and watching the show with my folks, and so I don't have like a specific moment, but just
right.
I have this memory of, just sitting on our couch. It was like this awful, ugly 80s couch and just watching the show. And it was great. It was everything that we wanted to, to be entertained with.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Yeah. But now we come to my favorite part of the show, which is a little bit I like to call Gag Me with the Spoon. So this is where we do our best impression of our least favorite part of the episode. And then I'll put it up to the the listeners to vote. And, the winner gets Totally Rad Christmas sticker unless I win, in which case I get nothing.
But this might be the first time you win.
No, I doubt it. It's been like 80 something episodes. I still haven't won. I have a feeling at this point, the listeners just don't like me winning. So, and there were a few times I thought I did better, but oh well. But yeah, just kind of set up the scene, for us a little bit. And then as a guest, I'll let you go first and just kind of go for it.
So it was actually kind of hard to choose because there was a lot of moments where we like, oh, really?
There were a few, yeah.
But when he is talking, and I don't remember her name, the flight attendant.
Right.
Yeah, and that whole exchange when she sees him sitting after the last store closed and the snow falls on him and he's like cold and wet and dejected and she just kind of comes to rescue him. And he's like, wow, do you have wings too? And she's like, I do. I'm a flight attendant. And you're like, and then as she's going through the bag and telling him, oh, but how about this? And how about this? And oh, you don't want that. That's a silk teddy. And she's like, is there anything better than just a new silk teddy? And I'm like, why are you telling this random man this stranger at 10 o'clock at night? I mean, did you have no home training? Why are you even talking to strangers?
Yep. Stranger danger, people. Stranger danger.
Stranger danger. That's right.
That's good. No, that was good. For me, and there were a few. Yeah, you're right. There was a few lines that were just like 80s writing. But in this case, it was so this is when Woody's talking about his the show that he's going to be in, and he says that he's going to be playing the King of the Flakes, and Cliff just kind of stares at him deadpan and goes, oh, that'll be a stretch. Yeah. So I mean, I was just like, okay, like you could have said anything. There's a bunch of comebacks you could have made, and you just chose that'll be a stretch. Like, come on, Cliff.
Yeah.
But yeah, you could tell that it was still that infant, like writing has progressed nowadays. So a lot of it is trying to be a little more realistic. Whereas I think the 80s was like that still kind of transitional period where they kind of held over from like the 60s, 70s style writing, into more like the 90s and beyond writing, and it's the same with acting, like acting started tending more towards realism, in that era. And so I think the writing, especially that, I mean, come on, there's like a million lines you could have said that would be better.
Right.
And, but anyway.
And I think, but see that line, while it may not be, a great line, but those are also the kind of covert comebacks that continued on into Frasier.
Yeah, so that's true. Yeah.
In Cheers, there's a lot of overt comebacks where it's like very blatant in your face insult. And then the underhanded ones, which are kind of just more simplistic and maybe not even for everybody, because some people might not even catch the meaning.
Right.
But I like, maybe not that particular one, but I like those.
Yeah.
Because those are the ones that you're like, oh, I caught that. I see what you did there.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah.
That's cool. Oh, but I got to ask. So G.I. Joe, they taught us that knowing is half the battle. What do you think the other half is?
Not waiting until 10 p.m. on Christmas Eve to shop for someone you're going to see. Even if you decide not to give it to her, maybe you just want to have it in your back pocket.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's better than mine. Mine was so if knowing's half the battle, the other half is making sure it's a date before spending $500 on earrings.
I like that. I do like that.
And that's just good advice for life, guys. Don't spend $500 on earrings if you don't know if it's a date or not.
Yeah, that is a good lesson.
Yes. Oh, Lisa, it's been fun talking with you.
This was so much fun. Thank you.
What do you want to plug? Tell me about your show.
Okay, so my show, I am one half. My other half is Agnes, and Agnes and I have been friends since the 3rd grade. What we do is it's a watch, rewatch. So the premise is that one of us has seen a show, thinks the other should watch it because they haven't. So right now we are doing Lost. For those of you who don't know, it was a very big and iconic show on ABC in the early 2000s. And I've seen it and she hasn't, and she hates it, actually. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, she's going to love it. This is a great show. You have to totally watch this. And she is not a fan. So every episode we go through, we drink and we talk about it chronologically may not be the best word to use when you're talking about Lost, but episodic. Right. And every week it's just me telling her why this is a great show and her saying, okay, how many more episodes till we're done? When we are done, she'll get to pick a show and we'll just continue like that.
Nice.
So we can be found pretty much anywhere you get your podcasts. You could also head on over to sassnsips.com, and that will link you over to everything. Social media, podcast platforms. Yeah, it has all our episodes there. Any ways to contact us. And we hope that you check us out. We think that we're a lot of fun.
It is fun for sure. Yes.
Thank you. But yeah, I'm having so much fun doing it with her. She is one of my best friends, and we've known each other forever, and we don't live in the same state anymore. So this is it's just been really fun for us to stay connected through this.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, and I love that you can tell that you guys have been friends for a long time. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It just you get that vibe right away. So yes, definitely check them out. It's a fun show. You'll laugh, which I love. Like those are my favorite kind of podcasts where you laugh.
So. Oh yeah, we never take ourselves too seriously. The first few episodes at the beginning are a little rough around the edges. First for us. So
they always are. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you do give us a chance, please try to stick in it, because it does get a little better, I promise.
Right on. Well, thanks again. It was a lot of fun. I had a blast.
Thank you.
And I'm going to end it by saying, doesn't that just epitomize the spirit of Christmas in the 80s? A gaggle of pie-eyed Santa Clauses all trying to find a designated driver to take the sleigh ride home. So check us out on our social media pages, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And if you're feeling like Frasier, finally getting into the spirit of Christmas, leave us a review on iTunes. Not only does it help us reach more people, but you also get a free sticker. Now, don't forget to vote. Later, dudes.
Hey there, I'm Lisa.
And I'm Agnes.
And together, we are Sass N Sips, a watch-rewatch podcast.
We want to personally invite you to check out our podcast, where we'll be discussing TV shows from two perspectives.
One who has seen the show before.
And one who's not so sure. While we drink a lot. I mean, like a lot.
Every season, we will focus on a new show. And for our first season, we have chosen the iconic show Lost.
We hope that you will come over and check us out.
We can be found on your favorite podcast platform or at sassandsips.com. If you're down for drinks, friends, and television, then make sure you listen and subscribe.
Because we're down for all of it.
Yes. Woo-hoo. So listen with your bestie, open your favorite bottle, and sip and sass with Sass N Sips.